Kevin Hunter with Chris Bornstead, Kyle Torgerson here on Northwest Digital News. Welcome to our broadcast here today. It is Friday, December 15th. We're going to be talking about some comments that come to us on the web here today and under a new aspect of this show called CarWise. And so we're going to have a bunch of fun reading some of that stuff. I can tell you this much with content that I've published on the web dating back even to 2009 that there are over 21,000 comments from people around the country that have been impacted one way or another by something going on in the car business. And you can imagine, because some of this stuff explains and exposes what goes on in the car dealership, and even more specifically what happens in the finance office, because it is by far where the worst of the worst stuff happens. The thing is that when somebody deliberately misleads you or breaks the law in the dealership, that's a really hard thing to prove. And that's the reason why I share with people who are car shopping, never walk into that finance office by yourself, always have a witness. And here's the interesting thing. There's a really it almost completely removes the possibility that you will be lied to or ripped off if you walk in there with a little handheld recorder or whatever and set it on the table and tell the finance guy, if you don't mind, I'd like to record this conversation so that I have it for my own records. And when that guy says, well, we don't really do that around here, that's a signal for you to get up and leave. Finding that comment, this is a window etching program that dealers claim you need to have. It's to provide theft protection, and you need to have it on your car, they say, so that thieves don't steal your vehicle. And they charge you $200, $300, $400 for this program. So read his comment.
Okay, it looks like this came from Ghostly Gilly. I'm guessing is what the name is here.
Okay.
But the dealership makes you, as a technician, put this on a car for a measly $2 and will promptly return it to you if you haven't put it on the car.
So this is a guy who's a technician who works down in the dealer's detail office, and he's confirming that the dealership, he's essentially saying that these are roughly a $2 package, and with as many of these as they buy, like if you or I were going to buy a window etching kit, we'd pay roughly $25, $30 for two, and they sell them, like in a kit of two. So that's about $12.50 per car. Well, because the dealership is buying them in bulk, he's saying their cost is actually $2. But I can tell you that I am aware of the fact that in some of these dealers where they're selling a ton of this product, and they make about $750,000 a year by pushing this stuff onto people, just this one product. So the techs down in the detail office actually get penalized and will even lose their job if they don't put these little etch numbers on the car windows, so that when the finance guy is talking to you and says, Kyle, this is a program that's already installed. I mean, so if you buck about it at all, they're just going to say it's on the car, and you got to pay for it. It just doesn't
make sense to me. If they put it on the window, right, and you steal the car, you just break the window and take the pieces that have the numbers off it, and you got rid of it. I mean, am I wrong there? Is that?
Well,
I mean,
sure.
I mean, come on.
Here's the other thing, and any consumer can do this. You don't have to believe me or anybody else who would tell you that this program is a scam. You know Sheriff Mark Nelson here in Colletts County really well. Yeah. Ask him when he has ever located a vehicle anywhere in all of his years of law enforcement and used a window etching program to verify or find the stolen car and to find the owner. Ask him if he ever did that, because I'm going to tell you he's going to go, well, that was the VIN number or the license plate we used, and if it didn't have those two, you probably don't want your car back. And no, I've never heard of window etching. That's what you'll hear from literally every single law enforcement person you talk to, and yet the dealers will tell you the cops are going to use this to find your car.
People get these things and they shatter the window out. So once they do that, those numbers are gone, right?
That's true, but to go back to a point that you'd say, well, then if a thief was going to steal a car that didn't have window etching, that might be a safer bet than one that did. Well, the truth is nobody's looking at these numbers anyway. So what difference does it make what number's on your window? Does it make a difference?
No,
Yeah.
But please don't steal me on the window.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it would be better.
That's gonna be a better deterrent.
Please don't steal my car. Etch that on your windows. Yeah. You could buy that. There are window etching kits available online.
Well, I'm just, it sounds like a scam completely. Is basically what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Is adding something to the price of your vehicle that you really won't use or really need.
So Kevin, you said that you could buy those kits online.
Yeah, about $25 for 2 kits.
So instead of paying all that money at the dealership, you could go online and buy your own and do it yourself.
Yeah, for like $10 to $12 per car. If you decided, man, I really want this window etching, well, you can go ahead and pay the dealer $300 for it if
I
you
really
want.
want it.
I really
I gotta
want
have this etching.
And it's so much better if they do it.
Oh, yeah, it's a professional job.
Yeah.
That's why you're paying the money.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a dealer that sells between 250 and 300 cars a month, somewhere in that neighborhood, will pocket $750,000 a year just on window etching.
Free
alone.
money.
Yeah.
It's pretty much free money.
Yeah, and there's nothing they ever have to do. They'll give you like these little pamphlets of where you can call, should your car ever be stolen. Well, you might want to call it the day you think about buying the stuff and see if anybody ever answers the phone. And then when you get voicemail, leave a message and see if you ever get a return call. There's an interesting conversation that gentleman who's kind of a consumer watchdog in another state. He had conversation with his own state legislators and his own attorney general because he was aware of many people in his area being ripped off by this window etching thing. And here's what they said to him. They go, there's a reason why we can't prosecute these people for what they're doing. Because all they ever had to do in all the years that they've been doing this, and they've been selling this product for a lot of years, all they ever had to do was even one time ever pay anybody even a dime of return, like when their car was stolen, and they can say we reimburse somebody. And that's all they ever had to do. It seems really crappy, doesn't it? But anyway. So let's read another comment. This comes from a gentleman who calls himself Irregardlessly Unthawed. So I guess we could call that Mr. Frozen Regard, couldn't we? Because it's kind of all these double negatives in here. Anyways,
Sure.
He says, anyone that knows how front and back end profits work knows that the finance manager wouldn't knowingly change the price of a car from $22,000 to $22,999 just to sneak $1,000 back in. What he's referring to is one of the comments on the video, which is depicted here in the icon, right up here in the corner, is how to beat the dealer finance office. One of the points in there is to check the price of your vehicle and make sure that what you negotiated with the car salesman out in the showroom floor is actually the price of the car that's showing up in your contract. And in this case, there was a young gal by the name of Nikki, who is an actual person. Her last name and whatnot isn't shared here. But she's an actual person. Nikki was buying a car that was priced $1,000 at the number was like $21,999 or $22,000 rather, exactly.
Right.
And she wanted $2,000 for her trade-in. They were only going to give her $1,000. She sat firm on it, and eventually they bumped her trade up to $2,000. So when she got to the finance office, instead of her car being priced at $22,000 that she was buying, it went to $22,999. Interestingly.
See, I would have walked away from a deal like that completely because of the dishonesty that was involved in it.
Well, here's what this guy says, is irregardlessly unthawed. This is full disclosure. This is a finance man who works in a dealership himself. He admits this in his comment, and he says, it likely was just a mistake. And he goes, but to put that on the video wouldn't make news if you just said, a dealer just made a mistake, that's not the case. No, these guys were, when Nikki came and showed me that deal, and because this is somebody I knew, when Nikki came and showed me that deal, I was sitting right there when she called the dealership back, and I can tell you that it took a really long, probably half an hour of conversation before they ever got around to, well, they defended it to the hilt, like, no. And finally, when Nikki said, well, I have Kevin Hunter sitting here next to me, and, then started to explain what I have done in the car business, sharing consumer related information and the stuff that I had on their web, they went, well, let me get the owner on the line, and all of a sudden the owner gets involved in the phone call, and he's going, you know what, this guy, he must have just made a mistake, what? So before that, they were like, and then when Nikki was able to show the screenshots of this car being on the web, on the internet, at $22,000, not $22,999, and her paperwork that she had, because Nikki was somebody who took good notes, and paperwork she had before she walked in the finance office of it being at $22,000, and then just jumping $1,000, they were taking their $1,000 back that they didn't want to pay her for her trade. And so that's the reason why people need to look at it. So, Mr. Irregardlessly Unthawed, you think that the finance guy just made a mistake? Well, No, he didn't make a mistake. So let's move on. What else we have up here? Next comment or question.
Let's see here. This is one from...
That's a comment we just had.
This is actually, I think this is more of like a praising thing, but this came from Ginkgo's Affirmations. Great information. I've worked for Nissan, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Toyota, Lincoln, Scion, Mazda, and Mitsubishi. I have a hard time saying that.
Mitsubishi.
Dealerships. So I know from experience that this is solid information. Keep up the great work. Basically, if you guys haven't been paying attention, Kevin was supposed to make me feel better about buying cars. But it's going the other way because he's telling us all about how they take advantage of us and know that they are taking advantage of us. And that just makes things worse for me, Kevin. It makes me never want to buy another car again.
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing is being an informed buyer is a huge advantage. So if you at least know that you're walking into the shark's den, you know, if you're going to jump off the end of the dock in the water and you know there's sharks in the water, what do? You go, well, I want to jump into the area of the water that has a cage around it, right? I actually really thought that what I would learn inside of these dealers is that there's these myths, that all these terrible things that happen in the car business, that I would be able to prove that they're a myth, that it's actually nowhere near. People just make stuff up. You know, the customers just imagine all these bad things, and you know, there's no real proof to. And even when you read people's comments on the web about this kind of stuff, you're hard pressed to go, well, that's a really valid comment, unless you really knew. So I went through the training process in a couple different dealerships, and I was just stunned by how the expectation wasn't just kind of telling you to mislead people. It was really freaking clear that you are going to follow this process. And one of the things we have, if you flash that screen back up with CarWise on it, one of the things that you see in the background here, you see that Mustang sitting right over here. Right here, this Mustang, right here. The reason why that car says emotionally involved on the top of it, that's really funny.
Who doesn't love a Mustang?
Yeah, who doesn't love a Mustang, right? The reason why that's a great depiction of somebody getting emotionally involved in something or in a purchase is because one of the cornerstones of training for salespeople and anybody in the car business is to get the customer emotionally involved. Because the minute you fall in love, it's like Kyle with his new girlfriend, and he stops thinking about it.
Oh, Kyle got a new girlfriend. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. We better let his current girlfriend know, right?
You know, when I bought all my cars, you know, because I was trained in sales, not as a car dealership, but by people who were in the car business, and it's just dirty, and it amazes me how they set people up to do this type of thing, and I just, it's not making this easier for me, Kevin. You just think it would be wrong for them to do this. I mean, there's nothing wrong with making profit, but these guys are going out of their way and misleading people purposely to make more money, and that's to me, that's not right.
Now, there's another gentleman, if you can find the comment by Fatima Khan. This came to us a week ago, right there. Fatima Khan says, "Hi, I'm a victim of dealership fraud. Almost all the issues you discussed in the video, it happened to me. I waited for almost 3 hours and was pushed to sign on all the products without knowing they will be charged. I was told they were free by the salesman. At the time of shaking his hand, I was at $16K, and in the finance office, it changed. When I came home, saw documents, I was at $22,000. So he went from $16,000 to $22,000 with all the 3M protection, the vehicle replacement, and tire and rim protection. I filed a complaint to AMIVC. The dealership's owner called and said, I put the wrong stuff. I shouldn't have done it, but the grammar isn't really good here. I didn't have another option because I asked them and requested them to cancel the deal." Well, I'm not going to go through and read all the rest of that because it's you can see that on the screen there. But here's the interesting thing to know. This guy says that pretty much all 10 things on this shared in this video happened to him in his car deal. And if your finance number went from $16,000 to $22,000, he padded $6,000 into this deal during his visit in the finance office. That's a pretty big chunk of money, isn't it? And So anyway, here's the thing that you should know is that if this has happened to you and they've added all these added products into your thing, car dealers want you to think that the minute you sign the bottom line and you walk out the door, and most car consumers believe this, they think they're screwed. They're like, I can't undo this. I just shot myself in the foot. And here's this guy sitting at home going, man, my loan just increased by $6,000 and I didn't even pay attention to that. Well, guess what? Go back to the dealership, cancel all this stuff. They're going to kick and scream and say, no this, no that, and whatever else. Sit tight, wait them out, tell them you want the stuff canceled. Good dealers who recognize they're caught will, that's kind of an oxymoron. Good dealers who recognize they're caught. No, good dealers will immediately go, or the better ones, I should say, will immediately go, that's fine, Kyle, we'll just take this off and redo your deal and whatever else. Bad dealers won't. And you'll probably have to get Attorney General's office involved. In some cases where I've been contacted by consumers from various states who this has happened to, I've actually called other dealers in their area and talked to their finance offices, and I've visited with enough of them, you know, who the good people and who aren't, in a very short period of time. And I've called the finance, talked to a finance officer and said, hey, there's a gal who just bought a vehicle 12 miles away from you guys at dealership XYZ. And in some cases, the guy goes, oh. You're like, oh, no. Yeah, and I'm going, just bought a vehicle over there, and the dealer is not cooperating with them. Will you, and if you want to charge her a fee, $200 or whatever you want to do, but will you take this lady into your office, cancel all of this stuff for her, and help her refinance her car and get her payments to where they should be? Now, there was a lady who had done this on a brand new Kia Sorento, and her payments went from just going over to this other dealer and having this finance guy redo her deal. Her payments went from like $570 some a month to like $425. So it was $150 worth of difference came out of her car payment. And that finance officer is the one who contacted the other dealer and canceled all of this stuff on them. And there's no way they could say no to him because he knew their whole gig. I mean, when somebody else is in the business who's honest, and all the guy had to say is, hey, I'm Brett Jones, the finance officer over at XYZ dealership. I'm calling to cancel this customer stuff. And they're like, okay. And it was deal over.
I got one. This is from, it's Joan, not Joanne. I'm hoping to buy a new car in about 2 weeks. I have questions about when to tell them I have cash about half the price of the car I'm interested in to put it down. Should I use this information to negotiate a better price or wait until I'm in the finance office and then tell them about my stash? If I should use it as a bargaining power, should I inform them when they've supposedly given me their rock bottom price or when? Great videos, and I've learned a lot by watching them, and I do feel pretty confident when I make that trip to the dealership.
Well, Joan, good to hear that you feel confident in making a trip to the dealership. That's great. So you've learned some things here. Let me share with you something about cash. There's an old saying, cash is king, not at a car dealership. When you go into that finance office, you have to remember it's the dealership's whole leverage is they're holding over your head, is they have all the power with the bank. The minute you say you have cash, you have immediately taken that whole power thing and shifted it over on your side of the table. And now, especially in her situation, and in Joan, where you mentioned that you have a sizable amount of money, you're going to put half down on the car. I would not tell him that until you have listened to every pitch he has. Then mention about cash. And here's the reason why not. If you walk in the door and I told the salesman, hey, I'm looking at a $30,000 car, I got 15 grand in my pocket. Well, immediately he knows you're a little bit smarter buyer. Okay, you're likely more informed. You're somebody who has saved some cash. He goes and tells his used car guy, hey, Danny, when you appraise this guy's car, I mean, just wanting you to know he's got a big chunk of cash in his pocket. So Danny goes out, and instead of appraising your car at $2,500, he's going to try to tell you, hey, it's $2,000 or some number much lower than that, in the hopes that you leave some money on the table, because he knows you're not going to leave very much money on the table in the finance office. Okay, now you're negotiating. So now you've been hit on your trade because you said cash too early, and then you go to negotiate the price of this $30,000 car, and you fair market price it. Realize that the fair market price is, let's say, $28,700. So You're just trying to be fair, and you go, all right, I'm going to offer you 28.7 for this. Go, oh no, this one's really special. It's whatever, blah blah blah, and they're likely to give either no quarter or very limited reduction because again, you said cash too early. Now here's the reason why not saying cash was important in the beginning, because if you said nothing about it, the guy goes, you stand fast on your trade that you think it's worth, and they go, oh well, Fred's going to get him in the finance office. You stand fast on your fair price offer in the car negotiation process, and the sales guys and the sales manager are going, all right, well, let's give it to him because, you know, Fred's going to take $5,000 out of his pocket in the finance office anyway. And you get in the finance office, and he starts laying all this stuff on you, yada, yada, and you get all done, and you go, by the way, I'm pre-approved at my own credit union at 2.9%, so the 8% you offered me is ridiculous. And I have $15,000 cash in pocket, so I don't need your gap insurance and all the other stuff that you're talking about. So I want to pay half down on my finance with my own bank. And all of a sudden they're going, oh shoot, we missed a chance to nail him on the trade and missed a chance to nail him on the car, and now we can't nail him in the finance office. Joan, don't tell him you have cash until the very end. Make it sound like you're financing everything with zero down. And you'll be surprised at how much more willing they are to negotiate with you on the trade, on the car, and on everything you're talking about in finance. What's the next question?
So this is from William Swinton. This is a little bit longer one, but this is a pretty cruddy story here. But anyway, hi everyone. I'm a 60-year-old semi-retired car salesman. I love this video. One of my last car deals involved an elderly black woman. She was about 80 years old. She came to me when I worked at a Ford dealership. After I gave her the demo of the new car and she decided to buy it, some crazy stuff happened in the finance office. Now, that's not exactly the word they used, but, you know, we're going to try to keep this rated G.
Yes.
So
I see that it was a different word.
The next day, the daughter of the customer called me and asked me a simple question. Mr. William, how come the car you sold Mama cost $20,000 and she put $15,000 down on her contract and it says her balance is $19,000?
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, what? I was mad as bleep, and I stormed into the finance manager's office and asked him why he just did that dirty stuff to that little sweet old lady. He had sold her every option that the dealership offered. I'm sure he just started a cool, light conversation with her and then just started shoving papers in front of her saying, sign here, sign there. And because she trusted me, she also trusted him. Well, I got...
Bad move.
Yeah, bad move. Well, I got fired the next day, and while I was home brainstorming, I got an idea. I wanted to use my experience to help as many people as I can to find, finance, and buy a great new or used car. So I created a 100% free local car buying service to make sure that this type of crap is put in check. I built, and then that's all I have as part of the,
okay. So thank you, William, sharing that. Many years of experience, 6-year-old guy, semi-retired, a ton of experience in the car business. First of all, he confirms that what we've shared in the video is correct. Secondly, the situation with this elderly lady, buying a $20,000 car, puts $15,000 down. She should have a $5,000 loan balance plus tax title license is what she should have. And she walks out of there with a $19,000 loan. Oh my gosh. That's what they, in the car business, they use these really crude terms. They call this getting your head ripped off. And they will actually talk about it in sales meetings and say, you know, I sent them into the finance office.
They like high-five each other on this stuff.
Yeah.
That's what creeps me out about it, is they're like, yeah, let's screw this person over. Woohoo! You know, and that's what, you know, just, yeah. I try to show no emotions when I'm buying a car whatsoever. In fact, I want them to know that I'm not enjoying it at all.
Yeah.
And that's how we bought our last car. The guy in the finance officer in the office, he's trying to get me all excited and make this a fun experience.
Get you emotionally involved.
And I'm just like, yeah.
The fact that you're scared of the whole process and you're just waiting for somebody to rip you off keeps your senses very heightened
Yeah.
It prevents you from getting emotionally involved, and all you're trying to do is get from where you started to the other end of this out the door without being taken advantage of.
These lot lizards are terrible, man. I mean, you barely got your foot out the car door, and they're on you like, hey, what can we do for you today? I'm not even out of the car yet. Give me a break.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just crazy.
Well, thank you, William, for sharing that. We have several others that we can share. We'll do that in upcoming shows down the road. If you are fair and honest with your people, they will come back into your dealership at alarming rates. And there's no reason why your dealer can't become the #1 car seller in your region just by being fair and honest with your customers. Pretty simple marketing tool. All right, that concludes our episode here on CarWise. On behalf of Kyle Torgerson, Chris Bornstead, Kevin Hunter, thanks for joining us here on Northwest Digital News. Until next time, see you later.